YouTube, how the heck you doing? This is Corey here with Watcher of Realms. We did not have the best of showing here, to say the least. We did go against MLG, my little guild. Unfortunately, they are like a top 5, top 10 ranging guild overall, and yeah, didn't do that well in terms of defenses, but hey, I did kind of decent when it comes to the offensive, so let's go ahead and go through it. We had 3 wins, 1 win, well, 1 loss where 2 dogs went through, and then 1 where I absolutely trolled. So let's just kind of get straight to it. This is really good competition. This is obviously an Overlord guild. Yeah, let's just do it. So this is going to be a Valdron team that they did go ahead and run. Whenever it comes to Valdron teams, especially just chaotic teams in general, with Valdron, there's a very specific win condition that they have. So let's go ahead and slow this down here. So the win condition with Valdron is you want him to go ahead and do as many AoE hits, which is his annihilating hits, or annihilating like smash or something like that, as frequently as possible. Now that's really popular whenever he's A5 because he gets that additional 100 attack speed whenever he does one of them, so it'll go ahead and wipe out any swarm attempts. So what we're trying to do is just build up a swarm, hope that we get really good RNG and that he doesn't just constantly do it, and then most importantly, we really need our tanks to survive with really good HP. So the reason for that is because if Sargat goes ahead and gets them low alongside Valdron, then Sargat is going to go and trigger and deal additional damage, especially if he's A3. So that's the main consideration and worry against this team composition. Also, they are running Ajax, which is a really good source of magic damage because he's going to go ahead and hit pretty much this entire corridor, but we're kind of going to go ahead and stack up some things here, right? So we went ahead and dropped the Fallen Templar to go ahead and tank up a little bit and then also just die because we really want him to just bait out the ultimates, right? Then we drop the second one alongside the Fool, and the whole purpose is the Fool and this Fallen Templar should go ahead and basically just tank everything, right? And now what happens is we drop the double Necros and a healer, because notice here, right? This guy right here, he is doing well. He's tanking everything alongside the Fool, so we're not really too concerned. And the main win condition for us is we need this healer to go ahead and connect to where this Templar is, right? If we're able to go ahead and do that, we win. One of the main benefits is Valdron's pretty much done ulting, and this dude right here, he's still alive. Now we have the healers coming in, and the Fool goes ahead and gives him the shield. At this point, all we need to do is just wait for the cost, and we might even just go ahead and drop a second healer here because we really need this guy to stay alive. We actually go ahead and just drop the double dogs. That's more than fine because we went ahead and pretty much waited out all the ultimates, and right here, the dogs are going to start pathing through. And then finally, Ajax has not ulted yet, so that's the other really good thing. That dog sneaks through, we win, right? So it's a kind of combination of things. We're really looking at the ultimates that are coming out, specifically Ajax, because Ajax can go ahead and wipe out the map. And then also we're looking at Sargat in particular, because Sargat can go ahead and take out the tank alongside Valdron. So if we're able to just juggle those relatively effectively, we win. Now also we were kind of lucky because that tank lived much longer than anticipated. He just refused to die thanks to the Fool and thanks to the healer. That's how it kind of goes ahead and works. Now this is also another nightmare comp. It's interesting how MLG is choosing to go ahead and use Ajax. They seem to prioritize Ajax, at least on a couple of these teams here, and this specific build, because I guess they're doing this to run Ymrit on another team, because typically nightmare teams you want to go ahead and use the Ymrit, but I guess they're trying to do this as an alternative. So what we do is pretty much the same thing. We go ahead and drop the tanks and they deal with it pretty well. Now one of the differences between going ahead and doing this comp versus a chaotic team versus a nightmare team is really Wukong, right? Wukong, especially if he's A5, which, I mean, if I'm looking at the damage that he deals here right about now, goes ahead and ults. That's an A5 Wu, right? Or at least close to it, because he almost chunks out the tank. He might actually just be A3, because normally that tank would have died. So we go ahead and set up the swarm, right? We drop the healer, mainly because I'm more concerned about my tank dying than anything else, especially because of Wukong's damage, his burst damage. So we really just want the tank to survive as long as possible, and that's why we dropped the healer first instead of going ahead and dropping the double necros like we did against the chaotic team. I don't mind if my healer even goes ahead and dies, but I'm really banking on him just surviving long enough to give the tank some sustain and for the skeletons from the necros to spawn up over here. Now that we've gone ahead and triggered Hotset ult, there's two things that will happen, right? Wukong, his targeting system is going to go and focus on the skeletons rather than the tank, which we're about to see here. Wukong's going to go ahead and ult, and he hits the skeletons and not the tank, which is perfect for us because now the next step here is Ajax is going to go ahead and ult, and then also Hots is going to go ahead and ult shortly. So we go ahead and drop the Fool, because I don't want to drop the dogs into the Ajax ult. I'm more concerned with all my units dying. So as long as this healer here can go ahead and give some decent sustain, we should have a good win condition overall. So we have the healers kind of tanking up here. They should go ahead and start healing. And the Necros are also fine. They went ahead and spawned up. And there we go. Double dogs running through the map here. And we should see them just effortlessly pass through. One dog, two dogs, and then the final one is right here, kind of getting some weird pathing, and then they both stick off once the Wukong is dead, and it's a GG, right? So that's the win condition for that team as well. Those Nightmare comps are pretty interesting because typically you go ahead and see people doing a Ymrit, but Ajax is an alternative. I just don't think that he is the best alternative for that specific setup. Now the final one here, well, not final one because there's a couple, right? We go ahead and get two dogs through on this team. I messed up, truly, like I did, because I waited too long to go ahead and drop the double dogs. If I had done it a little bit sooner, it would have probably been better. But you're probably wondering why is Talon here. Talon is really good because Talon has some pretty good sustain, especially with Icarus Chalice. And then secondly, Talon goes ahead and does some really annoying knockbacks. So that's why we see this team here. So they're really banking on Praetus doing enough damage to take out these units, and then banking on Anora CC to also deal with any units passing through. And then Talon's job is basically just to knock back any units that come into the range. So that's the main win condition. They're really just, once again, banking on Praetus, just chunking out every single unit here, especially because he is the Lord. So we go ahead, we pretty much stack up the units here. We stack up some healers, and then there we go. Now that Praetus is ulted, our tanks are just getting absolutely melted, and then Talon is also just knocking the units back and giving some pretty good CC. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky now, because we already have one tank that's down, and then we have the Necros here, but we need to go ahead and just start dropping as much as we can. So we go ahead and drop the dogs, and this is where I mess up actually, because I should have dropped both sets of dogs, and then we would have probably won. And unfortunately, Praetus goes ahead and procs his ult. Anora's isolated hit right here is going ahead and rooting the units, and so they kind of died. But if we waited long enough, we could have dropped the double dogs, because it's just two more costs, and they would have probably gone through. So that's just 100% misplay on my end. That should have been a win. At this point, Talon knocking back every single unit, Anora just bursting them down, and then Praetus just killing the tanks, kind of seals the deal on this loss. So a little bit unlucky. That just comes down to double stack your dogs, right? And then the next one here, this one is so unlucky. I can't even explain just how unlucky this is. So let's go ahead and show it. So this is a Nightmare team. They are running Ajax. And so I've noticed, right? Per trend, they tended to go ahead and use Ajax over Ymrit. And I really just think it's because they didn't have Ymrit. So they just did the next best thing. So we go ahead, we drop the Night of Destruction. Our main goal is basically to Season 6 this, kill the Toreador, kill everybody, and then run through the map, right? So we go ahead, drop the Night of Destruction, then we drop the Shadowkeeper and the Axes. Once again, the most important thing is actually drop the Shadowkeepers ahead and then the Axes second. That way you can go ahead and stack them pretty much on top of one another. Unfortunately, we get a little bit of stuns over here, so it desyncs them, and so they start to hit Toreador, but it's not perfect timing, but we have just enough alongside the healer to go ahead and force that Toreador passive. So at this point, we go ahead and know, okay, we have enough damage to do this a second time. So once we go ahead and die, which they should die now, we go ahead and pretty much stack this up again. So there we go. Ajax is ulted, not a destruction. And we're going to repeat this process, right? Because we know it goes ahead and works. The unfortunate thing is I am on PC and I typically do my attacks on my phone. And here's why that's relevant. At this point, Toreador is dead, right? I am desperately trying to click on every single unit that I can, but I am the worst at clicking them, I guess. Like, I'm literally clicking this, like this tower right here, because it's like I'm technically on Ajax's model. Nope. The game says no. I am not on Ajax's model, even though I'm clicking him, right? So we go ahead, I drop the dogs. And then I actually clicked on the Ajax to kind of do this again, and I keep missing it. And so I dropped the second dogs way after the fact. And see, Wukong is dead. And then bam, these dogs run straight into Hatsu ult. Goodbye. It's so unlucky. Because if I had dropped both sets like I had intended to, Wukong would have instantly died, and then those dogs would have instantly gone through, and it would have been a very, very simple win. But I am not a PC player, so yeah. Unlucky. And then we have this final attack here. This is also a interesting comp because they're using Yuri. Understandably, the whole reason for that is because Yuri is replacing Ajax, and Yuri's job is essentially to wipe out any swarm that is being developed with her defense break, and then also alongside Hatsu and Wukong. What you should see is basically Hatsu autos bouncing off of unit to unit, and then Yuri ultimate basically stacking from unit to unit, just wiping out the map. However, this is a little bit of a BP check in my opinion. If you have tanky enough Fallen Templars and then tanky enough Necros and good healers, you should be able to out sustain this team, which is exactly what we go ahead and do, right? So we go ahead and drop our tank, we have our healer here, and then we have the Fool. So what's going to happen is the tank should survive, and then Wukong's targeting is going to start focusing on the skeletons overall. And that's why we have the healer here, right? Because Yuri goes ahead and ults, and you should see it here. She's going to ult now, and then her autos is going to start bouncing off from unit to unit. All we need to do is keep them alive, which we do, right? And especially because we have the healer here, so the Necros are about to spawn up. That's 4 units. That takes up all the block. We have the dogs running through, and what's going to happen is, based off the timings, Hatsu ult should happen now, and the dogs are able to run through effectively with no issues. And it's a pretty simple win from there on out, right? So I'm not going to go ramble. MLG did really good. They pretty much stomped us. I'm not happy about it. I'm definitely not happy about it. But it is what it is. Anyways, see ya.